Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're just going to give it a couple of minutes while we wait for everyone to join into our Zoom room this morning. Welcome to our final coffee and conversation. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes while we wait for everyone to join in the room. Okay, I think we have everyone here. I am Nina Newman, and I am the Director of Admission and Financial Access here at King School. And we're so delighted that you're joining us for our final coffee and conversation of this crazy year. It's been so interesting. We used to do our coffee and conversations in person, and this has been sort of a silver lining because we know a lot of folks who would not have been able to leave in the middle of the day to come to campus have been able to join us virtually. So we will be having some virtual option moving forward because I think it's been really great, and hopefully wherever you're sitting right now, you're benefiting from the fact that you can access it from home or from work or maybe even your car. Our purpose today is to tell you a little bit about King and to get your questions answered. And I am going to actually turn it right over to my colleagues. I'm going to start with Marnie Sadlowsky, who is the head of the upper school and also the associate head of school for strategic programs. And she's going to start us off with a little overview, and then we'll go through and I'll introduce you to each of the division heads. And then we will switch over to Q&A to make sure that any questions you came here with, you leave with answers. So with that quick introduction, I will turn it over to you, Marnie. Take it away.
Thank you, Nina. Welcome everyone to this coffee. I am coming right off of graduation. Our class of 2021 commencement exercises were held this past Friday. And we also just had a coffee for our 11th grade families on Sunday afternoon under the tent to welcome them to the senior experience. So I've been focusing my time and energy on the upper school part of my job. But as Nina said, I am excited to give you an overview and tell you a little bit more about the upper school program later on this call. First of all, my colleagues, Sandy Lizaire-Duff, Dr. Duff in the lower school, and Josh Deitch, Dr. Deitch in the middle school, and I share a deep commitment. It's a King commitment to student-centered education that is inquiry-based. And I'm going to unpack that EduSpeak a little bit for you this morning, but basically what it means is that we share a deep dedication here at King to honoring the developmental ages and stages that we serve, from our littlest Vikings pre-K3 to the graduates that I just handed diplomas to on Friday. Being a student-centered school that honors developmental ages and stages across the board requires hiring teachers at each level, each division, who are knowledgeable about and passionate about these ages and stages. We all share this. No matter where you enter the King experience, your children will feel powerfully each teacher's belief, understanding of, and passion for those different ages and stages. We also believe that students who are known, loved, and deeply understood, no matter what grade they're in, no matter what stage they're at developmentally, creates atmospheric conditions in which students feel brave enough to fully engage in our rigorous and challenging and exciting program. We also, as I mentioned, share a commitment to inquiry-based learning here at King. What that means is we believe in asking good questions. We are a liberal arts and sciences school. We believe a rigorous liberal arts and sciences program is the best college preparatory program out there. And that program always asks us to teach kids to understand their surroundings with wonder and awe and curiosity at the highest levels of scientific research at local universities and global universities, to the 3 and 4-year-olds who are learning to ask really good questions about their environment. So inquiry-based learning, we believe, is absolutely what gets us to answer the deep questions of human nature. Who am I? Who are we? And the biggie for us, how do I know what's true? So these are just broad gestures of what we all share here at King: a passion for developmental ages and stages, hiring teachers who are experts in their fields and who are passionate about those ages and stages, and creating atmospheric conditions in which we can really dig into the exciting learning that our kids need to do in order to be prepared to move to the next levels of education. So I'll stop there. I think you should hear about the foundations of our program first. So our lower school, headed up by Dr. Sandy Lizaire-Duff, is our foundational King experience. So if you are looking at that division, you would be entering at our foundational stage. So Sandy, I'll turn it over to you, and you can give us a glimpse of that rock solid foundation that we offer here.
Thank you, Marnie. And so how do we do that? That solid foundation at the lower school, which is grades pre-K to 5. We start out with a foundation using the Reggio framework, because we believe that childhood is a time of exploration. It's a time to wonder. It is a joyful time for children to discover, and they do that all on their own, with a gentle guidance from our teachers. Our lower school program offers our families a dynamic, forward-thinking instructional program. The Reggio-inspired program that we have in our pre-K and kindergarten environment, it allows children to focus, and the teachers use the environment as a teacher. We believe in using the outdoors as well as the indoors. We set up the environment so that the children are naturally using it to learn. We bring the environment in and we take it out. And that critical component is what fosters that inquiry-based learning that Marnie talks about. Reggio is a natural way of doing that. In grades 1 through 5, we continue that inquiry based learning by using a project-based approach to learning, where children are questioning, they continue to wonder, they continue that to use a hands-on approach model. Again, thinking about the different ways of questioning and answering questions, and trial and error approach, not just when you think about mathematics and science, but when they're conducting research as readers and writers, when they are working together, whether they're conducting research on their own, but when they're working in pairs or when they're working as a group, gently being guided by the teachers. Through that curiosity, being courageous thinkers. Our lower school teachers inspire children to really be to engage in that critical thinking. Our classrooms environment, it is open so that children are able to we really say, we say to try, and we want children to say, I don't know. We want them to be able to feel free to say that, so that when they do hit the bumps, and for teachers to say to them, let's think about it together. Let's try it out, because we want children to know and understand that they don't have to have all of the answers. And our teachers also don't have all of the answers, but it's okay to seek out answers. It is grounded in our mission, it's grounded in our strategic plan, and it is grounded in research. And that is how we do that. We have a course in addition to the academics, but it's also grounded in character development, because we also want to make sure that we foster an environment where children are being good citizens, where our virtues are embodied in terms of who they are as global citizens, as good citizens. And so they're learning to be upstanders and good friends to each other. And so here at the lower school, we take a whole school approach, a team approach, and we'll definitely have an opportunity to ask questions. So I do want to leave time for that. But pretty much that is the foundation of the program, the instructional program here at the lower school. And so at this time, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Deitch, who will tell you how he continues that work at the middle school level. Dr. Deitch.
Thanks, Sandy, and thank you to all of you for attending. Good morning. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope there's air conditioning where you are. It is warm out right now, and so I hope you're doing okay and staying hydrated. Like Sandy said, my name is Josh Deitch. I am the head of the middle school, and at King, our middle school runs from grades 6 through 8, and when I think about middle school, I think there's a lot of things that we can talk about with middle school. One of the things I always ask folks who are coming into middle school is to think back about their time in middle school and be honest and say, you know, how many of you on the call right now would be honestly happy to repeat the time at your 3 years, 4 years in middle school? Oftentimes when we're in a room where I'm asking that question, I don't see a lot of hands go up. Middle school is a time in our lives where in those 3 years that we have those students with us, they go through more change cognitively, socially, emotionally, physically than almost any other time in their lives, except for when they're born to when they're 3 years old. And so our job as a middle school, our job in our program is to create opportunities for them to come to an understanding of who they are in the world around and who they are and how they fit in the world around them. And there's a lot of different ways we do that. And there's a lot of ways that I could talk about the variety of options and the variety of experiences that our middle school students have. And I could do that for hours and hours, but I only have a few minutes. And I want to make sure that we have opportunities for you to ask questions. So what I'll do is I'll give a quick overview about the way we really focus our understanding of the middle school and the way we build off of that strong foundation that our students have as they come from us in the lower school. What you heard from Sandy is exactly the same foundation that we have in the middle school around the idea of asking questions, knowing what we don't know, knowing what we do when we don't know. And slowly our job as a middle school and our job in as middle school educators is to develop students who go from what we call student to scholar. And the goal of that kind of journey from student to scholar is a very specific one in my mind. When I think about a student, I think about someone who's very interested in taking information in. And it's great to be a student. We want to have information. We want to learn. We want to bring that information into us and have a good understanding of it. But what scholarship, when I talk about scholarship, what we start to talk about is exactly what you heard from Marnie at the beginning of the conversation, which is it's not just about learning the information that's offered to me. It's not just a one-way street. It's an opportunity for me to understand what's going on. It's an opportunity for me to make sure that the information that I'm learning is relevant to me. It's to make sure that the information I'm gathering and accessing and has the ability that I can evaluate to know what is true. How do I know what is true? And to slowly but surely, as I develop my own voice as a middle school student and ultimately as a student and a scholar in general, to communicate a novel understanding of whatever it is I'm learning at that time. And that aspect of kind of my ability to communicate my understanding is really the heart of what we do in the middle school. And so what I would say also is when I use the term scholarship, we have to recognize that scholarship for a 6th grader probably looks different than a scholarship for a 3rd grader, looks different than a scholarship for a 10th grader or our graduating 12th graders, or the type of scholarship we do in our undergraduate and graduate studies. But it's all important and it's all valuable and it's all meaningful, because at the end of the day, what we do in our middle school is we help our students understand that their experiences and their voice matters. And so we have a variety of experiences that allow them to hone these voices and hone their choices and to explain themselves from a variety of perspectives. And so whether that's in English class where they're sitting around a table, a Harkness style classroom, or in history class where they're doing a model UN experience, or science, where right now, as I could walk down the hall and it smells terrible because they are doing some awesome dissections, even in this COVID year. They've been and trying to understand not just about how the bodies of these animals work, but then communicate that in a variety of ways and in a variety of formats. And so what I'll say really clearly is, when we boil things down into the middle school, we boil them down to what I call the 3 R's. And it's not your traditional 3 R's, although those are just as foundational and as important as anything that happens in our school. Your writing, your reading, your arithmetic, that is at the heart of everything we do. It is always going to be there. And then but we also know that in order for those to be effective and to come through, and for our students to really connect to those essential materials that they need to have in order to be successful in any school environment when they move into the high school and beyond, we have these other 3 R's, which I boil down to relationships, richness, and relevance. We talk about relationships first and foremost. Our students know that they are cared for, and they know that they are known and valued for who they are. That means that everything we do in the middle school starts right at the moment they walk in the building, when they, on normal years, not this year, shake my hand and shake our Dean of Student Life, Ben Maggotson's hands. When they literally walk in the building, they are greeted by name. In their advisory program every day, every student has an advisor whose job it is to be that adult advocate, support, and guide for the student throughout their time with us. And then in each classroom, every teacher gets to know their students both in and out of the classroom, so that they can create an environment that is conducive to them. Nothing happens without those relationships. The next part of that richness that I'm going to talk about is the idea that as our students start to develop and understand who they are and where their passions are, they are able to dive as deep as they want into the content areas that are exciting and passionate to them. There's always information, there's always experiences that they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to show that they know really well. But then there are always going to be opportunities and assignments and learning opportunities that are designed for them to dive in as deep as they want to go, to explore from a variety of perspectives, to explore from by doing a variety of different types of research, right? When we think about research, we often think about the very traditional, at this point, which is disappointing, Google. And instead, what we really are talking about is research is a way to gather information from a variety of sources, whether it's speaking to individuals, reaching out through research, looking at different sources. All of that stuff boils down to their ability to research and figure out what it is. And they're going to do that in each of their classes. And then the last one that is so important in a middle school experience is relevance, right? I can't think about how many times we've heard our young adolescents say to us, why do I need to know this? And they say it nicely. And one of the things we really believe in is that these skills that they learn in middle school, the stuff that they learn in middle school, they are going to use and bring to bear throughout their lives, whether it's in school or outside of school. Like I mentioned before, what do I do when I don't know what to do? How do I speak up for myself in a moment of time when maybe my friends are changing what their interests are a little bit, and I'm not quite sure where I fit in anymore? How do I take what I've learned and impact the world in a different way than maybe I've expected to? All those things are established right in what we do in middle school, and we help our students learn that it's not just about gathering and accruing information. School and learning is so much more than that. It's so much more than that. It's built on the idea that when we learn, we have to do something with that information. We have to think about ways that there's stuff in the world, in our community, in all of our relationships, that we can answer these questions. And by answering these questions, we're going to have an impact. And that establishes, and we do that in a relatively appropriate way for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, right? So that's going to look it's going to look like what it does, but it lays the groundwork for our students to understand who they are as students and understand themselves as people, and understand their place in the world as they then step into the upper school, which I'll pass off to in a little bit, because just like our class of 21 just graduated last Friday, we are moving our class of 25 into the upper school in a few days, and they're going to be so excited to dive into that space and ready to rock and roll because of all the work they've done in the lower school and everything we've kind of had them explore and experience in the middle school. So with that, I will stop talking and I'll pass it on to Marnie, who you heard before, but she'll talk more about the upper school.
Thank you, Josh. A couple of thoughts as I listened to Dr. Deitch. Everything that Dr. Deitch says about adolescence in the middle school, early adolescence, the neurological development, the explosive neurological development that takes place in adolescence obviously continues into the upper school. The difference between an 8th grader's prefrontal lobes and a 9th grader's prefrontal lobes, is not so great. So in the upper school, we continue to pay close attention to the developmental needs of our students, particularly our 9th and 10th graders. We have a wonderful set of transition meetings that Dr. Deitch and I are about to have with our teams to make sure that our students who are transitioning from the middle school into the upper school have a seamless experience. And I want to say to you as prospective families that one of the things we do particularly well, particularly if you're looking at the upper school, is understanding where your children have come from. If they're not coming from our middle school, how are they going to seamlessly transition into our upper school? That said, I don't think it should surprise any of you if you're looking at the 9th and 10th grade, for example, that we do have a tight relationship with our divisions here as we have many lifers and are eager to make sure that we continue the wonderful spirit of self-knowledge, knowing oneself as a learner, getting really smart and kind, as we sometimes say, as we move through the divisions. So I'm happy to talk to any of you about what it means to transition into an upper school if you are upper school, if you were not, if you're not looking at the middle school and looking forward, or looking at the lower school and moving forward. A couple things about the upper school. Josh mentioned this growing sense of self and a sense of awareness of one's interests and passions. In the upper school, our main task is to help kids with individuation, right? They're moving further away from authority figures called parents, although they're maintaining their relationships with you in healthy ways, but they're also learning to become more fully who they are to be in the world. And we call that at King in the upper school their core of self, that they continue to solidify that core of self. And they deepen their identities as scholars, as Josh mentioned. And that means increasing sophistication in the disciplinary areas of the liberal arts and sciences. So in the upper school, we talk a lot about how kids can think, ask questions like a scientist, like a research scientist, think like a historian. Are they able to sense the nuances of language that an author of a novel or a poet might use? Can they see the world in sophisticated ways through the eyes of a visual artist, and hear the world through the ears of musicians? And we firmly believe, again, I said this at the outset, that the liberal arts and sciences, when applied well and broadly, offer us the best chance of a firm foundation for college. Speaking of college, we do hang on to that developmental model that we've talked about already this morning. All of our students in 9th grade are assigned a college counselor. That is not to get them all hyped up and freaked out and stressed starting right in 9th grade, but that is rather the opposite. It's to help the students understand that they have a team of folks, including that college counselor, who are going to get to know them incredibly well, who are going to be connected to their advisors and teachers and the academic dean and you as parents, so that we can have really good conversations about hopes and dreams and expectations, and really present our students and help them present themselves as students and scholars in the process of applying to the best colleges and universities. At this point, I have to say also the world, because we have students going beyond the United States for their collegiate and university experiences. So that commitment to increasing sophistication, who am I in the pursuit of scholarship across the disciplines, and who am I as a person developing my passions with my college counselor and my team, those are really wonderful elements of the upper school that I want to highlight. Happy to answer questions about those aspects of our program. Deepening passions is very important. As I mentioned, it's making sure that you're fully equipped in all the college preparatory elements of liberal arts and sciences, but also that you have the freedom to pursue your own passions and your own interests. No two upper school schedules are alike. Our students have personalized schedules that allow them to draw on, and we're very proud about this, a wide range of electives in a really amazing, with amazing depth and breadth, particularly in terms of our programs that they're called distinction programs, but they allow students to go deep into particular subject areas. Again, I can answer more questions about these later, but they're diploma distinctions. So at graduation, the kids who had diploma distinctions were wearing gold cords around their necks, and you can earn a diploma distinction in the visual arts, in global studies. We have a very, very impressive global education program here in our high school, in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and also in leadership studies. We have a wonderful array of courses in theory of leadership, and leadership across our clubs programs, another area of opportunity for individuation that I can talk about later. And then, of course, our world language distinction, students who are pursuing multiple languages. Often some of those students also earn the distinction in global education, as multiple languages is a requirement for that distinction as well. So going deep, getting to know yourself, all of those things that you start along your trajectory through King, really we're able to really take those goals and really achieve them because kids are cognitively ready for them. And again, it's that developmental readiness that we seek to seize, and in the atmospheric conditions of being known, heard, loved, and understood. So as you can probably tell, I could go on and on and on about all of our programs at King, but I will stop now, and we can get a little more granular in the Q&A. And we're always here to answer your questions beyond this Zoom call, of course, as well.
Thanks, Marnie. Yes, I think all of our division heads always get an A+ for enthusiasm, and it's infectious, right? Not only do the faculty feel it, but the kids feel it. And I think that's why we talk a lot about the joy in our classrooms, and the kids really feel that. So thank you very much. We will switch it over to Q&A. There is a feature at the bottom of your Zoom, which I'm sure you all know by now, which is labeled Q&A. And if you enter in your question there, then I can go ahead and direct your question to the right person. While you are doing that, I will just kick it off with a question that we get on almost every Zoom we have, which is about our philosophy towards homework. And I thought maybe Sandy could start, and then Josh and Marnie could give their divisional philosophies. And you'll see the through line, but of course, one thing I love so much about King is that we really appreciate and respect all of the different developmental stages of our students. And you heard a little bit about that, and of course, our philosophy towards homework follows suit. So Sandy, why don't you kick it off?
Well, thank you, Nina. At the lower school, homework is an extension of what takes place in the classroom. So it is practice of the lesson that the teachers taught. It's a reinforcement of the skills that were presented. So we really don't give busy work. We want the children to practice the skills. We want it to be a partnership between home and school. We want parents to be able to support and guide their children at home. And so if you're working with your child at home and they're not able to finish and complete the work, we want to hear that. We don't really want children to take homework home when they're not able to complete it. We don't want that level of frustration to rise. And so we really want you to email us, to send us a note to say, we tried this, we really weren't able to complete it, and send it back to us. And so we don't want our homework to last for hours and hours on end. The typical homework would last really for grades 1 to 3 is about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, grades 4 to 5, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. But that's the average time for homework. Certainly for each child, that will vary because children are very different. And so for one child, it may take 20 minutes, whereas another child may need an extra 10 minutes. They may need an extra 15 minutes, or another child, it might take them 5 minutes less, or 7 minutes less. And so again, that's something to keep in mind because children do learn differently, but there is an average amount of time of homework that we do expect, that we do give for each of the grade levels. We do not count reading as homework because reading, we believe that is something that every child should be doing at home with their families. And that includes even our pre-K children. And we don't count that. Really, we expect families to be reading with children every night. You're reading together. You're reading to them, they're reading with you. If you're reading, if you're reading on your device and your children walk up to you and they said, "What are you doing?" We expect you to say, "I'm reading," because you're modeling for them. If you're reading a book and your child comes up and they ask you to do something, sometimes it's okay to say, "Not right now, I'm reading," because you're modeling for them the importance of reading. And it's okay to say to them, "Why don't you go get your book and come sit next to me? Let's read together." And so reading for the sake of reading, for the love of reading, teaching them to appreciate reading, the love of literature, that's different from reading. And so reading for 20 to 30 minutes per night, that is in addition to your typical 20 to 30 minutes of homework. And so again, homework is to supplement, it's to practice skills that have been presented. Josh, I'll pass it on to you.
Thanks, Sandy. I would just say kind of mostly ditto with the middle school experience. I think at the very foundation of what Sandy's talking about, the philosophy behind homework in the middle school is very similar. We believe in homework. We believe it's an important part of our student experience. And the way we think about homework is that it is not designed to be busy work. It is designed to do exactly what Sandy said, which is to practice and reinforce the skills and concepts that are covered in class, to preview sometimes the information that is going to be gone over in class the following day, to give students an opportunity to prepare, to understand, and to show up ready to rock and roll in their classes throughout the week. One of the things I would say is that as we move into the middle school, where students are moving from class to class to class and have a variety of different teachers throughout their kind of school day, we really believe in the idea of the average of homework of about 20 minutes per night per class. That, again, like Sandy says, is an average, and it's kind of what we aim for. It does not necessarily mean that every night you're going to have a certain amount of homework that you can just set your timer and rock and roll on. The thing that I think is really important about the way we continue to move the progression forward in middle school is that we use homework to reinforce and to practice some of the bigger student skills that go into helping our students develop as students, not just as learners within a classroom. So they learn organization and materials management and time management through their homework assignments. We have a really wonderful student information service that is what we call My King, where students have all their assignments posted every week, and we help them kind of navigate that, especially when they come into us, into our division in 6th grade, to understand, how am I going to prioritize my learning? How am I going to prioritize my assignments so that I make the most of my kind of time and attention and focus and thought. So many of our students have so many extracurricular and after school activities that sometimes it's really helpful for them to sit down with their advisor and be like, you know what, I got to do math first, and then I'll figure this out down the line. And that's a skill that takes time, and we help them develop in a really specific way, both as advisors and as teachers. The other thing I would say that I think is really important with the way we use homework to develop these student skills is that at a certain point in their middle school experience, especially as they move from 6th to 7th grade, our students start to move a little bit more away from I have a homework assignment that's given to me today and due tomorrow. And they start to have assignments that are given to me today and due a week from now, or given to me today and due 2 weeks from now, with some checkpoints along the way. And so what we actually really want to make clear with our students is to help them understand how to navigate those longer term assignments and those deadlines, is that, they're still designed that you have 20 minutes of homework per class per night. But if you wait, if it's due today, if it's given today and it's due about a week from now, and I wait till next Monday night to do all this work, it's going to feel like more than 20 minutes. And so we really help our students to understand that time management, to do that chunking along the way, because again, the goal is that we help them develop skills that'll serve them not just in middle school, not just in school, but beyond. And very rarely do any of us in our own day-to-day lives have those assignments that are given to us today and due tomorrow. When I sit down at my computer to have this conversation with all of you, I'm not sitting down and being like, you know what, I'm going to do English now, or I'm going to do math now. I bring all those skills to bear when I have something that says, you know, we have this that needs to be done by a certain date. And I'm thinking about how do I make sure that I am adequately prepared and know what I'm doing along the way. So that's really the way we use homework to set our students up to understand who they are and know what the best ways to approach their work is. Marnie, you can talk a little bit about the upper school too.
Yes, and again, we share that same commitment to developmental skill building, time management, a sense of delayed gratification. I'll throw that in there. I know that if I schedule my life in this way, I will be able to achieve X down the road. All of those skill sets and mindsets continue in the upper school, particularly in the 9th grade, where we do still have, as the middle school does, we continue a supervised study period during the day. They're called study halls. Traditionally, that's what they're called. By the time kids are in 10th grade, we're not really talking so much about homework anymore. I mean, we still use that word, but we're really talking about studying. We're talking about studying for many things, and we're talking about many activities and commitments that the kids have as they become young adults. And so it's not just what happens at home, it's how do you manage your day. And so by the time you're in 10th grade, you have free periods in your schedule. And your free periods allow you to decide, are you going to work on a position paper for Model UN? Are you going to go check into one of the labs and work on one of your advanced research projects? Are you going to check out of the building entirely and go to Weill Cornell in the city during an 80-minute block to check in on a research project on the train and then be excused from your next free period to extend that time? Are you going to go to the lower school and are you working on helping some 5th graders with one of their science projects? So there's a lot of richness in terms of the use of time that happens in the upper school that is developmentally appropriate, but also acknowledges that when our students go home, they're doing a lot of different things. Sports and the arts, performing arts in particular, happen after formal classes are done. So how are you going to use your day to prepare for that reality? And what are you going to do later on in the evening? And how are you going to sleep? We talk a lot about sleep. So just a few gestures there toward developmentally appropriate thinking about homework. We in general get nervous if students are spending over an hour per class. Again, we want to hear from the students. We have a great advisory program in the upper school that helps us keep track of how kids are experiencing their academic loads, and a really lovely relationship between the college counseling department and our academic deans and advisory system that really keeps track of students' loads. Again, because all the kids' schedules are different. Some kids, they want to work all day long. They are so passionate about particular areas of study, and we want to give them the freedom to do that. But for other kids, we have to, watch and make sure we're paying attention to balance, and that we are developing our whole selves as we move toward college and have an empowered sense of using our time as scholars, because that's the skill set and the posture and the brain mindset that they'll need to take with them to college. So I guess I'll stop there, Nina.
Thanks, Marnie. We have a great question about specifically how students transfer from another school to the lower school. I thought maybe I would start with a little bit of an overview and then let the division heads chime in with anything specific to their divisions, because I think this is a great question for anyone considering a move. We do have basically 3 major entry points at the school. Most students enter in either in our early childhood program in pre-K or K, in 6th grade or in 9th grade. Those are the largest entry points at the school. However, we do have a school that grows from those early childhood programs through the upper school. So our lower school is our smallest division, the middle school is a little larger, and then the upper school is our largest. And I mentioned that because every year in every grade, we have somewhere from a few to a handful of new students. I'm thinking in 7th grade, we often have 10 students, maybe 12 students who are new. So even a year that doesn't seem like an entry point, we often have new students. I think that's important for you to know and for your children to know, because our King kids are used to welcoming new students. It might not have been that long ago that they were new themselves, and they have every single year that they've been at King had new classmates, and they really tend to enjoy those new relationships because it's the norm, because it's not a disruption. They're used to that every year. So I get a lot of feedback in the fall about, transition's never perfect, right? It's always a little unsettling. You have that sort of pit in your stomach on the first couple of days. But I get a lot of feedback in those first few, less than the first week, from families saying, wow, it really went much smoother than I thought. The kids were really nice. They were welcoming. The teachers anticipated questions. The kids knew where to go and what to do. And we do put into place an orientation the Thursday before school starts for all of our new students. And that's a great way to come and sort of check out your classroom, see where your locker is, meet some faculty members, get to know some new students. So that is a really nice way for us to help with the transition. And then the other thing that, before I turn it over to the division heads, you've heard a lot today about how important it is for our students to be known and valued. That is something that distinguishes us from our peer schools. Not to say that other independent schools don't know or value their students, of course they do, but the priority of those relationships, especially in the beginning of the year, is different at King. And I've worked at other schools, I know that it's different at King. The time spent in those first few weeks to really understand who these students are, not just as students and learners, but also as people. What teams do they like? What pets do they have? Do they have siblings? What town do they live in? All of those pieces of information help shape who a kid is and help us really understand where a kid's coming from and how to best reach him or her or they, and make them feel comfortable right away, because we know research tells us that when kids are comfortable and they feel safe, they can take those academic risks that we want them to. They can really challenge themselves. And there's a lot of research out there also about students who have strong relationships with their teachers excelling academically. And we take all of that research really seriously and commit a lot of time in the beginning of the year, less so to placement tests and summer reading exams and things like that, and much more so on building those relationships early on. Sandy, did you want to add anything specifically to the transitions for the lower school?
Sure. So one of the things, well, just a few things, Nina, that we do have the PA Ambassadors Program, where the current families are partnered with incoming families, and they will reach out to you over the summer. They will schedule play dates right here in our lower school playground. So that's a great way for the kids to get to know each other, for U.S. families to get to know each other. There's also the PA uniform exchange, because we always get questions about, about the uniform. What do the kids wear? What do they wear just on regular formal days, on Fridays, our t-shirt days? What does that mean? Is it just a regular t-shirt? Is it the King t-shirt? And so those kinds of questions, and the parents are really good about answering that for you. Also questions about PE, athletic wear. We also have, Nina already mentioned orientation days. Our teachers are great also about welcoming new students. We have a Hopes and Dreams conference that we hold right after the orientation day that's held in August. And that's an opportunity for the teachers to connect with you as families, as Nina mentioned, to really get to know you. It's part of that, making sure that the students are known, so that we do connect with them, connect with you. And so really making sure that we start to make that bond. And so the teachers is as soon as you become a part of our community, the teachers will reach out to you. We become accessible. I am available. And so you can always email us. Even our admin assistant, Mrs. Lewis, she's available. And so we are here all summer, and you're always able to email us and call us all throughout the summer. Josh? Marnie?
Yeah, ditto. I think, it's all, a lot of what Sandy said is true. In the middle school, we also have, like Nina said, we have these orientation days. We also are going to be able to, we're really excited now that things are looking good. We're going to be able to do some more opening trips that are really, really important to the middle school experience. Over within the first 2 weeks, like for 3 days, our students, probably 2 this year, our students will get off campus and do a variety of different team building and community building trips that range the gamut from kind of doing a high ropes course in a nearby facility to working together on campus outside of classes to do some real intentional team building and community building experiences, so that our students really do get a chance to bond in a way that doesn't naturally always happen in the classroom. And so it's certainly something we missed this year in our COVID year, and we're really excited to be able to do, to a certain extent. We're not going to be able to do overnights just yet, but really excited about being able to do that. And then the last thing I would just also add is that in the middle school, we've also developed a student ambassador program as well. So we have current middle school students who will be reaching out to your child should you choose us and come to our school in September. They're going to be reaching out over the summer and connecting to them in a variety of ways, via email, FaceTime, whatever connections really work for the kids, because that kind of having that friendly face and knowing those students is so important to feeling really comfortable when you come into the middle school. And even in a COVID year this year, I know we had students coming in feeling like they were part of the community, ready to rock and roll, because they'd been on these variety of exchanges for a while with a bunch of kids, and they were they hit the ground running in a way that was really exciting to see, even when we were behind masks and 6 feet apart. So all that is ready for our students to feel really connected to the school. And I'm sure the upper school has some unique little permutations as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have the systems that the middle school has as well. Our little permutations would be, obviously, we'd want your child and you to meet with our academic dean to talk about course placement. We do that on an individual basis for our new families over the summer. And we talk about advisory placement. And if the students know anyone at King or, have any proclivities, we talk a lot about getting that college counselor involved in terms of the Hopes and Dreams conference. That's kind of our version of the Hopes and Dreams conference. And I'll stop there. We have a number, we have trips, we have team building. Preseason is incredibly important to our upper school transition. We ask almost all of our new, I'm sure admissions tells you this as well, to really strongly consider having your child do a fall sport, because we find that the preseason is just so powerful in getting kids glimpses not only of their grade level, which we do a great job with our transitions, but also getting to know older students if they're coming in as ninth graders to really feel the support and love of those juniors and seniors who are on their teams. And it's hard to replicate that with the grade level based orientations on that date before school starts, right? They are going to be in classes primarily with their own grade level if they're in ninth grade, but we want them to get to know the upper class students as much as possible. So that preseason is just fantastic for that. Even if you're not a sporty kid, there's a sport for you, and they're super supportive programs. So that's my.
Yeah, it's been so successful that actually the dance program and the fall drama have started doing a preseason as well, so that if you are not committed to one of the sports, or you want to do dance or drama in the fall, you can get a little bit of a sneak preview of that too, which is great. The last question is about the percentage of students who graduate from 12th grade who have been at King since the lower school. That varies year to year. It also varies depending on the size of the class that they arrived in the lower school. We've had varying sizes depending on the year. What I will tell you is that our attrition is really small, well below the national norm. And I think the national norm is about 8 or 9%, and we're well below that. The major reasons for students to leave King are relocation from their family, boarding school in usually in 10th grade, and just when a student comes in pre-K or K, there is sometimes realization down the road that we're not the perfect fit. It's a long time for every kid for this to be the right school. So when we partner closely with a family, sometimes we all decide together that a different school might be the right fit. But we are really proud of the fact that King families are very happy here and stay here. And it's a really healthy, a lot of them bring their younger siblings, which is really great. We love having our King families. I'm going to answer just a few questions about the application process. So I will let our division heads head out to the rest of their busy day. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Marnie and Josh and Sandy.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
So at this time of year, I know that there are probably 2 groups of you, maybe 3 groups. Some of you are thinking about this fall, whether we still have some openings for the fall. And some of you are thinking about the following fall of 22. And then maybe the 3rd group would be, oh gosh, we were looking at the fall of 22, but now that you mentioned this fall, I'm wondering whether we should consider that as well. We do have some spaces available in certain grades. So if you're looking for this fall, I would recommend you giving us a call. We would love to speak to you and learn more about your child or children and your family and whether King would be the right fit and whether we have availability in the appropriate grades. If you are thinking about the fall of 2022, we will be starting that process really in September. That's when the application becomes live. That's when we will have finalized the requirements. We did have to alter some of our requirements this year due to COVID. So we're working on seeing whether we can have shadow visits again and in-person interviews and all of those really fun parts of the application process that unfortunately we had to move virtually this year. So please stay tuned for more information in September. We will be sending out a few newsletters this summer as well. So hopefully you can stay connected with us. And as always, give us a call if you have any questions or if you just want to chat. We really look forward to that one-on-one conversation as the first step in getting to know your family. So please take advantage of it. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have a happy summer and let us know how we can help you through this process. Thank you.